Thank you for joining me for this fourth and final study in Isaiah chapter 59, verse 14. I'd just like to read that verse and a couple additional verses to get our context today. Isaiah 59:14 says, "So justice is driven back, righteousness stands at a distance. Truth has stumbled in the streets, honesty cannot enter. Truth is nowhere to be found. Whoever shuns evil becomes a prey. The Lord looked and was displeased that there was no justice. He saw that there was no one. He was appalled that there was no one to intervene or to intercede." You know, in Isaiah 59, God is voicing his ongoing displeasure with his own people because they refuse to show justice to the oppressed and the marginalized in their society. Really, they're refusing to reflect his character into the society by their actions and the way they related to people. Thus far in Isaiah 59, we've looked at three of the building blocks of a healthy, stable society: justice, righteousness, and truth. And I'm certain that you've noticed already that all of these virtues dovetail into each other. They're so closely related that it's difficult, nearly impossible, to see where one ends and another begins. They are that intricately related to each other. Truth, though, is central to all of them. As we noticed last time, when truth stumbles, it prevents everything else from progressing. When truth is stumbled in the city square, in the streets, in the public square, what happens is justice, righteousness, and honesty, which we'll talk about today, cannot grow in people's hearts. We have to live by the truth. Truth is essential for a stable society. It is essential for the nurture of the other virtues that provide us with a stable society. Today we arrive at the final virtue, and that is honesty. Honesty. You know, it's an expansive biblical term. It's not that easy to understand. It ranges from the idea of honor all the way out to equity or fairness, and it encompasses justice, righteousness, and truth. The Hebrew term interpreted honesty by the NIV means uprightness. And when you and I think of uprightness, we think of moral rightness. People who live by a moral code. People who've taken on, through a nurtured, righteous relationship with the Father, who've taken on his ways, who've taken on his character, and who live within the boundaries that God describes in the Scriptures. That is certainly one very important part of uprightness. Upright people live morally upright lives. And that makes a huge difference in any society we find ourselves. We're right to think of uprightness as morality, but let's not forget there's a whole other side to this. An upright person also fulfills their promises. They're faithful. They're people of integrity. You can count on them. They're honorable when they say something. They are honest, and they will follow through on what they've committed. They keep their commitments. They live by the standards God has set forth, so they are moral, but they are also moral in that they keep their promises. Remember, all of these attributes, all of these building blocks of society are relational. And so you have this idea of, yes, living morally in culture is a relational idea. It flows from the heart of God, and it flows out to benefit people in society. But it's also this idea of integrity and keeping promises. If we don't keep our promises, we are not trustworthy, we are not honorable, and relationships begin to disintegrate when there is a lack of integrity or character. And as relationships go, so goes society, because society is built on our ability to relate to each other. So if we lack honesty, if we lack the integrity to keep our promises to each other, our relationships disintegrate. And as our relationships disintegrate, society disintegrates as well. You know, in a vacuum of justice, righteousness, and truth, when there's a lack of uprightness, God is looking for people to intervene. He wants people to step up, provide the justice, the mercy, the overthrow of oppression, and defend the marginalized, the hurting in society. He's looking for his people to live this just, upright, righteous, truth-based life in society, and to intercede or intervene on behalf of those who aren't getting a fair shake in the society. In Isaiah's day, God was appalled that his own people weren't providing an atmosphere of justice. to the marginalized. They weren't providing righteousness and living by truth. They were not people of honesty. They were not upright, neither in morality nor in their keeping promises and caring for those who are marginalized in society the way that God would have them do. According again to Isaiah 59, 15 through 16, truth was lacking, and whoever turned from evil was despaired. They were despoiled. The Lord saw it. He was displeased that there was no justice in Israel among his people. God saw that there was no one, and he was appalled that there was no one to intervene on behalf of those who couldn't intervene for themselves. In this hour, God is looking for his children to set the tone, to intervene, showing his justice, showing his mercy, living uprightly, by nurturing righteousness, by upholding the truth. We need to set the tone even if everyone in the church and everyone in society thinks we're crazy for doing it. Even if there's no maybe especially if there's no personal benefit for us upholding the ways of God. God wants us, his children, to live in selfless, self-giving love, setting the oppressed free and setting an example for society. There needs to be justice, righteousness, truth, and honesty for society to flourish and for the members of our society to flourish. Let's make sure that we are living by these 4 principles in the public square, in our homes, setting the tone for this society to look and see that there is an example of God's goodness, of God's character, of God's gracious, redemptive attitude in their midst. Be blessed, my friends.